Fine Arts student in Toronto, where he first met the Hare Krishna devotees on campus. Throughout his service, His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami has held numerous leadership roles within ISKCON, including as a Bhakta leader, Sankirtan leader, and director of devotional plays. From 1985 to 1995, he served as the temple president in Toronto, where he also accepted the renounced order of life, Sannyasa, in 1984. He is a renowned instructor of Bhakti Yoga, mantra meditation, kirtan, and interactive dance. With a strong dedication to the performing arts, His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami has written and directed numerous theatrical productions, beautifully interweaving spiritual and moral themes, which have been showcased on stages across the world. Known as the Walking Monk, he has accomplished the incredible feat of walking across Canada 4 times. His first trek in 1996 was documented in the National Film Board of Canada's documentary, The Longest Rope. His walking endeavors have also taken him to Ireland, the Fiji Islands, Mauritius, Trinidad, Guyana, Israel, and the United States.
And Stouffville.
In Stouffville also. During his walks across various countries, he had spread the message of Lord Krishna to countless individuals from diverse cultures, ethnicities, and backgrounds, creating meaningful connections along the way. Some of the remarkable experiences from his journey are beautifully captured in his book, The Saffron Path. We have a few copies available, and those who are interested, you can get it signed by Maharaj himself. And this contains all his, wonderful experiences with other people during his walk. So Maharaj is here, so you can get it signed by Maharaj. We have 2 copies. So at the end of the class or end of the program, you can reach out one of us and we can help you with that. So with that, we will welcome Maharaj with a big Hare Krishna Mahamantra with your raised arms.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you. Welcome, Maharaj.
Jai Hare Krishna. Whatever you like for Rupa, honestly. Yeah. I have another book too on poems that I wrote. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate. You have to hold off your clapping because it's not working just yet. Okay. Thank you very much. Jai Radha Madhava. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. How long do you want us to go on for?
6:15.
6 Wow, that's a long. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So then we have a little time for japa, right? 3 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Maybe
let's do
last
that.
few minutes for Q&A, last few minutes for questions and answers.
Yes, that we can do too, right. So let's pull our beads out. Our young friend back there, our little, what's your name over there? Ayanch. Jai, why don't you come up a little closer? You can chant with us. Yeah, that'd be nice. Do we have extra mala?
Yeah, he has gone to come.
Okay. Okay, we're about to partake in mantra meditation. Is it something you normally do, or No.
We do every weekend one round of Hare Krishna.
Oh, every weekend. End.
Yeah.
Now,
End of yes.
at the end of the class. Okay, then we won't do it.
End of the program.
End of the program is after the Narsimha prayer.
Narsimha
We'll be chanting one round of
Oh, I see.
chanting with everybody.
Okay, all right, then, so hold on to your beads. Okay, today we're looking at the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, and it's text number 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
That's 8:3. Okay, since we all have books, it's easy to follow the verse, okay? Aksharang Brahma Paramang
Aksharam Brahma Paramam
Svabhavo Dhyatmam Uchate
Svabhavo Adhyatmam Uchyate.
Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro
Bhavo Bhavakaro
Visarga Karma Sangitaha.
Sarga Karma Samhitaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruit of activities. And purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Right? We go through the whole purport, is that correct? Oh my God, ooh, that's pretty loud, whatever it is. Brahman is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahman, there is Parabrahman. Brahman refers to the living entity, and Parabrahman refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position he takes in the material world. In material consciousness, his nature is to try to be the Lord of matter. But in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. In Vedic literature, the living entity is called Jivatma and Brahman, but he is never called Parabrahman. The living entity Jivatma takes different positions. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, and sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord's marginal energy. According to his identification with material or spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual body. In material nature, he may take a body from any of the 8,400,000 species of life. But in spiritual nature, he has only one body. I'll just be a second. Haribol Anabhava.
Oui, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Oui, monsieur. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Grace Prabhupada. You leave me a message. I didn't understand exactly what was it.
I'm coming to see you tomorrow at noon at the temple. Yep, around that time.
And you'll be at the La Gare Centrale, huh? Montreal?
No, I'm getting a ride. I'm getting a ride.
Oh, you're getting a ride, okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll be at the temple. And for 6 o'clock tomorrow, the meeting is good?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
I'm just here in Stouffville, and the devotees want to hear from Montreal. I'm just reading the purport to a class. So they just want to say Haribol to you. 1, 2, 3.
Haribol!
Is that okay? Okay. Okay, in material nature, he is manifested sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, bird, etc., according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices, yajna, but When his merit is exhausted, he returns to earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma. The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man, and woman. And the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer of the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by a man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman, and thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice, and so repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world. And to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of myself. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord Achyuta never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. Jai Namo Vishubhadaya Krishnaaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tanamade Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pucharini Yevishesha Sanyavadi Pastyachari Satarini. Jai, thank you so much. So this chapter is very an interesting one, and you can see the purport of this verse is jam-packed with information. So what's going on here in the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna is Arjuna and Krishna are having a back and forth situation. There is, it's clearly a dialogue, and Arjuna is now in a position where he's got a bunch of questions. And that's what it's all about. Shishastiham Shadimang Twang Parapanam. That means that, like Arjuna's words, in his words, he says, I'm a soul surrendered unto you. I'm your student. Please be my guru, be my teacher, be my guide. Drive my chariot, be my guide. Drive my chariot, be my guide. Okay, so some of the questions that arise in here are, let's see, of curiosity to the soul who's wanting to find himself or herself. What is Brahman, and why that word would even come up is because it's part of Vedic culture. It goes around. And just like today, these days, the word karma is pretty common, part of regular parlance in the English language. Am I not right? You know, well, something happens that goes wrong, it's my karma. It's quite common to hear that, right? And so Brahman is one of those words which is common. Fruit of activities, karma kund. The word karma, as I mentioned, is there. What about karma? The definition is going to come out. And it's in this shloka. Let's zero in on that one for a minute. Karma. When you ask a regular person on the street, do you believe in karma? And a lot of people will say yes, because it's become an integral part of the mainstream society. Am I not right about that? You know, a lot of people believe in karma, whereas like in the 50s when I grew up, if you were to ask anybody, what's karma? I said, well, you mean like your car? And now it's very part of everybody's life. It just means action and reaction. action and inherent reaction, subsequent reaction, what the follow-up after doing something. They are related to each other, and so Krishna answers that. And I love the way he answers it. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities. Okay? You have to think about that. Let's read it again. You have to look at it once again. What did I just read? Action pertaining to the development of the material body. So, action we understand, just like if you're to make a movie, lights, camera, karma. It could just as well be karma instead of action. But what comes out of the movie making, when there's action, it might not work. Take two! They'll say take two. I remember when these National Film Board of Canada, they did a documentary it's about the longest road, and the longest paved road in the world is the Trans-Canada Highway. So I was with a team from the National Film Board altogether for 1 month. A week here, a week there, depending on which, and we had to go at different parts of the country to make it believable that I'm walking, and they were reenacting my walk. So I started in the spring on the West Coast, and then of course we took a week in the prairies, then we took a week in Ontario and Quebec, and then a week on the East Coast. So the viewer could see the changes of the seasons, And I remember at the end, at Cape Spear, which is the easternmost part of North America, they had me, this was early December, and as part of the reenactment of the walk that I did in 96, they had me, okay, Swami, do some mantras. They used to call, they never got my name, Bhaktimarga. So they had Swami, or sometimes Swam for short. So, okay, Swam, just do some mantras, So I did some of those mantras, and it was so cold to the bone, Oh my God, and I was trying to smile like I was at the end of the walk. Again, I was really faking it like anything. And then when I finished my mantra, I just put my hands back. It was so excruciatingly painful, I said, okay, take two. So, and then take three. And after we did a few takes, I just ran to the car, and the one woman that was with us, are you okay, Swami? Are you okay? Well, not really. Let's get to the car and turn on the heat. I was really suffering. It was very painful, excruciatingly painful. And so, I'm just mentioning this. Take one, take two, take three, and that's what karma is all about. Like, if you don't get it right, in this life, and the human form of life, Prabhupada tells us, and the Acharyas say that this is where it's your great break. This is your big break in your life, where you can actually slip away from the cycle and not have to come again into this world. Right? So if you don't make it in this life, take two. Take three, and these are the demigods, right? There's Yamaraj and a whole gamut of devatas that are responsible for seeing that we keep going through the cycle, and it can be quite unpleasant, to be honest with you. But what is really keen that I like about this verse is action pertaining to the development. What is the end result? What is the product of these actions? A new body, and a new body, again and again and again. And I'm going to share with you one of the poems that I wrote, if you don't mind. And it's got to be in the wisdom section here. Let's see, it's Travels of the Jiva. Yeah, Travels of the Jiva. 1, 2, 3, that's the page it's on. Okay. And just to make the point very clear of what this karmic reaction is all about. Okay, the travels of Jiva. Here we go. There once was a tiny anti-material particle, not reported in any regular news article. Jiva was the name of this glowing entity who somewhat lost purpose and identity. In its wanderlust, it really liked to move, feeling as though life would then improve. Yes, Jiva was up for travel, far and wide, a wish that absolutely could not be denied. The search was on, with the gift to freely fly. It looked about for directions in the sky. The moon, sun, Saturn, and Mars, heavenly bodies including the stars. Discontented there, Jiva pondered the deep blue sea and took the dive to the lowest degree. Made some piers and defied predators. It felt too oppressed with all the competitors. It was time now to see what Earth could offer. Would life here be gentler and softer? I think not, concluded Jiva, losing hope. The pattern appeared a downward slope. Poor Jiva was running out of places, weary of bearing all too many faces, weary of wearing fur, feathers and scales, bodies of skin, fin, and long or short tails. Jiva thought hard on the current situation. Perhaps pleasure is a dream's anticipation. The place of origin was the actual paradise. Convinced of home, Jiva U-turned and thought not twice. Hare Krishna. John. So we're going through this roughness, which is to go through different bodies, and it takes a little time to get things right. For a diamond to be produced and be what it is, it takes a lot of pressure, right, over the thousands of years for it to be a nice, attractive diamond. Personally, I don't care for them, but that's just everyone has their own diamond doesn't, it's like a piece of glass as far as I'm concerned. But to get these precious stones, it takes hundreds and hundreds of years of, for it to get to be what it is, something attractive that somebody will wear, usually around here, right? Yeah, so also to tweak and fine-tune life itself, we have to go through many cycles of this birth and death. And it can be excruciatingly painful. So in this great book, the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord does speak much about birth and death. Dehinosmin yata dehi, kaumarang yavanang jara, tata dehantara praptir, dhiras tatra namayati, which means that as the embodied soul continually moves from a baby to a child to an adolescent, and from that to an adult, and then from adulthood to wearing down and becoming small again, to old age, jara, and then finally kick the bucket. Have you ever heard that term, kick the bucket?
Yeah.
Do you know where it comes from? Anybody know? Kick the bucket? It's kind of gruesome, but I'll tell you how that term came on. Let's go to Europe, and if anyone misbehaved, they would be hung, and they would be on a bucket, and they would be, what do you call it? Lasso, what do they call it? No, not the gillet, but the rope itself. Yeah, the noose around the neck. And then when there would be a jerk, and then finally there would be an overall jerk, a sensation that the foot would kick the bucket. That means you're gone.
Transmigration.
Transmigrated into a new body.
Yeah.
So it takes a while to get to the human form of life, but once you get to the human form of life from a one-celled species, first of all, let's go back a little bit. Let's backtrack. The Shastras explain that when we fall from grace, from the spiritual world, it's not a great fall down, Prabhupada said. You get the form of a devata. Then after that, you fall down into a one-celled kind of form of life. And then gradually you climb up to be where you are now as a human. And it's humans don't always do so good in the field of, exercising the greater values of life. When I came here, there was a Rastafarian guy, and he was on the street, and he saw me, "Hey, Krishna!" And he comes over to me, and he's on the phone with his wife, okay? And he says, she's using foul language at him. She's upset about him. And said, wait, just a minute. I got a Hare Krishna here. Just talk to him for a minute. So they weren't getting along, and this is a display of the way that it is. And he's a human, she's a human, but they're not doing very well in terms of connecting with each other. There was a connection, but there was a disconnection as well. That happens a lot. A divorce, I'm not saying legally, but we all have a relationship with Krishna originally, but we divorced ourselves. We didn't go through legal channels. We didn't go to see a lawyer. We just ended up being here in this world and trying to make some sense of it all. Isn't that the way it was with the first living entity, Brahma? He came out of the lotus of the abdomen of Vishnu, and he's looking around. Hey man, what's going on around here? So some, message came to him via the sound of a flute. And anyways, the message was, get your act together, okay? And more specifically, he said, perform tapasya, perform austerity, ta-pa, yeah? Like we have T-P, what people live in, 2 syllables, ta-pa, which means perform discipline, get your life disciplined. And from discipline, good things will roll out, And, people in the mode of goodness, sattva gun people, they understand, I have to take up some discipline in order to get some good long-term benefits. The reverse of that is that I'm just going to have a good time here, baby. And then that's fine. But in the long run, when you're in that mode of self-enjoyment, enjoyment for the body, then you always end up with tragedy in the end. So the first message that came to the universe from God, from Bhagavan, is perform tapasya, to the first created living being. So is that message getting through to people? Answer. Is it getting through? Do you think people are really getting it?
Not at all.
Not at all. Pitambara says it really. Can I would like to share with you some nice verse from the Gita. It's chapter 3, and it's verse 10. Okay, let's look at that for a minute. Since you have the books there, we might as well flip pages. Otherwise, why are we holding these bricks of gold?
147.
310.
147. Page number 147.
Sure. Okay, so the verse here is similar to the message that I'm giving to you. It starts with Sahaya Praja Shrishva. Okay, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. The essence of this verse is informing us that along with the birth of humans and devatas, there's something called yajna, sacrifice, which is really like austerity, isn't it? It's like discipline. It's the same message. And if you partake in this yajna and its performance, you will have a happy situation in the end. Everything desirable for living happily, you will achieve. See, this is a key verse, right? Now, if you look at the one just prior, verse number 9, Yagnar tat karmanon yatra loka yang karma bandhanaha tad aritang karma kontiya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. So the same message is there. You're a human, do some yajna, do some sacrifice. Do something that's a little unpleasant. Do something that's voluntarily executed, a little bit inconvenient, and then you will reap some benefits. You'll get free from bondage, free from karma. Karma, bandhanaha. Yes, right? Okay, so that's the idea. Start life in that manner. We did talk about the Swallow the Frog by Mark Twain last couple of days. But perform some austerity. And that which in the beginning tastes like poison, in the end becomes nectarian. You know? On the other hand, that which in the beginning tastes like nectar turns into poison eventually. So it's really a clear message from Krishna that perform austerity, do those things that are a little inconvenient, and eventually things will become convenient. After all, what is convenience? You know, we have convenience stores. In Quebec, they call it dépanneur. And, you know, convenient. Well, why? Because it's on this end of the street corner, there it is. And it's got everything in there that's full of sugar and salt. Not very good for you, actually, you know. And it's not jaggery that they're using or maple syrup. It's the bad kind of sugar, and it's also the bad kind of salt. So you really can't win. So, but it's convenient. You go in there, I can just pick up this and then drive off. You know, if you ever spend a little time chanting one round of japa at the sidewalk right in front of the convenience store, you see people in and out, in and out, in and out. Everything's convenient. But in the end, that kind of food, those food items, if that's what it is, doesn't really work out. And let's say, if you go for, let's talk about gambling for a minute. You get those little papers, you know, you pull them out and you hope to win some, you know, through gambling, a lot of money. Well, the people, studies have been done on all the people have won big, like 1 million to 10 million. You've heard the sad stories, right? 1 year later, they've lost everything. Lost everything. Because, first of all, it's like black money, and you didn't really earn it. And so suddenly you've got all kinds of friends. There's a song, I think it's from Judy, what's her name now? Billie Holiday, yeah. And when you got money, you got friends hanging around your door. So everyone comes at you. They just pull at you. Oh, you know, I really need some help. Says, okay. And by the time the year is over, you've just emptied out your bank account. I didn't know you were hiding back there. So this is what we've seen, you know, lack of austerity, lack of yajna, sense of sacrifice, lack of discipline. It's not helping people, you know. So if you've got a human body, the best you can do with it is to, you know, take up some inconvenient practices in order to achieve something greater in the end. Yeah. And, you know, There have been great battles fought by conquerors, and they'll take over some kind of kingdom, defeat them, bloody warfares, and they get in there, and the conqueror does good for a while, for maybe 10 years, 20 years. He has a son or two, and they just can't keep it up. They just fall through the cracks. So whatever you may have achieved out of brutality usually doesn't help win the game, but it's rather through piety and acts of goodness where you earn some, let's say, achieve something well. Many studies have been done too about first generation people. They work really hard. Many of you are first generation folks, right? Into Canada, right? You worked very hard, you're doing okay. You've got a patio, you've got a couple of cars. You can go to India once in a while, every year, right? You're doing okay, yeah. And well, our kids are doing pretty good, but oftentimes people who come from other parts of the world, the second gen they don't have the same drive. It's not always the same. Anyways, we should have drive, and we should have something gnawing inside of us that say, I want to do better, I want to improve. But improve in what? Your financial status? Okay, that's important. What about investing in yourself? And the self is described here. Let's look at the verse once again. The self, the eternal, let's see. Brahman is referred to as the self, and it's called Adhyatma, the self. The self is the soul, right? S-O-U-L. Not, what's the other spelling? S-O-L-E, meaning this, the bottom of your feet. So we are the soul, we are the jiva, we're a spark of life. We're very powerful, only because from where we come from, but we can never be equated to the Parabrahman. We're called Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. Have you heard that term? Aham Brahmasmi. And we should remember that line. Aham Brahmasmi. Can we say Aham Brahmasmi? 1, 2, 3. Aham Brahmasmi. Let's put a little tail on it to make it a little musical. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Aham Brahmasmi. Very good. I am spirit. Do people get it? Does the average person understand that? No. The message coming from most folks is all about surviving, just survive physically. But it's kind of a vain attempt because we never live permanently anyways. So what's the use? But even without our trying, the soul is perpetual. It just goes on and on. Like, I really appreciate here, they're celebrating their 165th year. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing in Canada. But it's still not eternal. It may be a long time, but it's not eternal. But good for them that they're still hanging in there with their beliefs and their values. And this particular building here, that's pretty amazing. Let's see if we can
They may get an opportunity after giving it to us.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, so the answers are coming from Krishna based on the questions that Arjuna poses before him. It's appropriate for a student to ask the Guru questions. Tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So you meet a guru, or that can also be pluralized. Gurus, like Prabhupada started ISKCON, and he produced gurus. He made teachers, right? So you approach a teacher, or all teachers, because there's no problem. We follow the same vein. We have a similar view on things. And you do render some service. Usually the guru is a little older than yourself, and so that individual needs some personal attention, and so provide it. And part of your agenda is to ask some questions, pertinent questions. In the past, some devotees have asked Prabhupada questions, and in most cases, he actually approved of the questions and he answered them. Then there were sometimes questions that came that were not so appropriate, like things to do with Radha and Krishna and more intimate stuff. And Prabhupada just declined, said, "I'm not going to answer that question." He did say, "That is not even a question. That should not be a question." So we have to look at what's the appropriate question to ask, and usually it should pertain to your own personal spiritual advancement, right? That's really what it's all about. How do I make progress? How do I go from here to there? And that's what the Guru will offer. So in exchange, we do some seva. So we're all part of the ISKCON mission, and at the head is Srila Prabhupada, and he's asking us to share and to care for the world. Care for the world, and since you care, you will share. And what will you share? This wisdom. It does start from here. And we can do a few more things that might be helpful. When Prabhupada was in Mayapur, he saw that some of the poor children, poverty-stricken, they were fighting with the dogs to get some scraps, food scraps left on the banana leaves that were tossed out from a feast or something like that. And some children who didn't have food, they were trying to get in there and they're barking with it. No, the dogs were barking. They're fighting for getting the leftovers. So Prabhupada looked at that, he cried, and he said, so our mission also involves food for life. Prasadam must be, nobody should go hungry within a 10-mile radius of our temples and our centers. So that's another one of our, let's say, mandates, is to get the prasadam out there. Actually get prasadam out there, get the wisdom out there, get the sound vibration out there. The holy name, yes. Yesterday we were in Collingwood, myself and this divine couple here, and people were singing and dancing, and I learned later on some people were crying. They were having such a good time. So it's because we are dispersing the sound vibration, the pure sound. And that's what we concentrated on. I think there was a lot of love flowing in that room. There really was. We were quite one, and even most of the people got the dance steps right, because sometimes it doesn't work out. And like, there was no tone deaf people that I picked up on. Am I right? There's no. And the program before in Barrie, yes, there was tone deafness, but there was a magical oneness, and that's, I think, what people really want out of life. So joining together for spiritual purposes, on the basis of eating prasadam, on the basis of chanting together, philosophizing a little bit, dancing, chanting, all those things, it's the way to go, And outside of that, well, you just have to drink at the bar. That's all. When I walked through Ireland, I was going through quite a few towns, hamlets, villages, what have you, and there were so many, I'd say, at least about 30 to 40% of the shops were taverns in the towns. And they had those big sort of barrels with the kegs, And so that's what people feel, that's how you socialize, over drinking. Well, we socialize too. But what do we have? What's on for the drinks today? I'm just asking. Water? Okay. How do you know? No, I'm talking about liquid. Liquid. Okay. Mango, is it? Did you bring some from? Oh, okay, that's what's on the menu, okay.
Coconut water.
And I was gonna say coconut.
Coconut water.
Okay, great. So everything is good about our culture, right? And you know, we don't have to suffer. It's just good food. It's a good vibration. Everything is quite wonderful, quite invigorating and very wholesome. And that's all we have to do. I find that this the purport is a little complex for those who are interested in the philosophical outlook on what is the Vedas. They will find this very nourishing. But some people will find it a little bit tough. So yesterday at the program in Collingwood, one person was saying, so I'm going through the Bhagavad Gita, I'm going through the Bhagavatam, and so on. Like, it gets very complex. And I said, yeah, Jay, don't worry about it. You just pick up on the baseline things. And what is that? The baseline is love God, love Krishna. You can modify things, you can simplify things. You don't have to make it complicated. That's all. So we don't have to get too concerned about the complexities of the philosophy. And when it comes down to it, I'd say it's not that complicated, really. It's not that difficult. There's only a few things we need to know. Bhaktivinoda Thakur put out some elements that Dasamula. Now, what are our foundational beliefs? Dasamula 10 of them. And then recently, ISKCON leaders were working on our Dasamula, just to modify it a little bit, and put it a little more into the perspective of what it's like today. So that's all we need. We don't need to know many things. I am not this body. I am a spirit. What else? I serve the Supreme Spirit. What else? Anything else? Can we think about some baseline principles that we believe in off the top of our heads? Just pull it out somewhere.
Have compassion. Have compassion to all living entities.
Okay, sure. That's the feeling.
Keep a company of
Sangha. Yeah, that's great. Anything else philosophically that we believe in? Acceptance. Okay. Acceptance, especially the spirit.
I don't know if it makes sense, but we believe in like hearing the spiritual sound, tasting the vibration of the prasadam. That's some things.
Okay. I'm just thinking a little bit more along the line of what philosophically do we believe?
Simultaneous oneness and difference.
Oneness and difference. Okay, that is, definitely. That can also be complicated, yeah. What else do we believe in? Anything? Just throw it out there, I don't mind.
Just sort of.
Nothing is belong to us, everything is belong to
Nothing belongs to us, okay. Okay, all right. Well, good. Think about it a little bit, there is a God and it's not me.
I'm a part of.
There is the world of Prakriti, material energy. It's an extension of God. Anyways, you can think a little bit more about it. What are the basic beliefs? What is the, let's say, the bare bones of Krishna consciousness? Please give it a little thought. Anutama, could you help us, to get the Dasamula from Bhaktivinoda Thakur? You don't have to get it right now, but you can make it available for our community here. And next time you give a class, okay, here it goes.
Is it also called Dasamula Tattva?
Yes, Tattva, yeah. Tattva, truth, what we believe in, right?
The main thing
It's good.
I think what we believe is we are not the body, we are the soul.
Yes, we address that.
Maharaj said, Aham Brahmasmi.
How would all faiths lead to the same ultimate power?
Yes, but we're looking for something a little more basic. Just in terms of what is our connection with the universe and how it relates to us, something. But you can help us with that, Anutama. Is that okay?
Last year when I was in Chicago, ISKCON Chicago, they had like their tenets of what our beliefs are just for people who are passing by. So that's
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
That kind of language.
Depends on what you're looking at. I mean, Prabhupada also put out there the 7 purposes of ISKCON. Is that what you're referring to? It was something else.
Something else.
Okay, yeah, please share that with us and share it with me as well. Okay, so anyways, just to get back to, yeah, because it is a good time to sort of round it all up. We're happy that Krishna is there to clarify things for Arjuna. And, you know, we're like, also like Arjuna, we have doubts sometimes. How many people here have doubts? Doubts along the lines of what? Doubts about Krishna. Is he really there? Is he really blue? How blue? And, you know, is he really in my heart? How is he in my heart? You know, those kind of queries can naturally arise. And it's not harmful to probe into and try to find out what if I can get some confirmation about these things. It's all right. That's what we champion as human beings. As human beings, we're set up for asking questions that go a little deeper than where do I find food. That's what Prabhupada always talks about, what the animals are all about. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, Europeing, whatever else is out there. And so what qualifies us as humans is to inquire into the absolute. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now that I've gone through many species of life, now I've got a human body, I think I should go deeper into understanding the ways of the world. So that's it. We're happy that Arjuna has got these questions and has put them out there to the proper person. And Krishna, without pausing, with no this and that, and then without him even have a chance to say Om, the Lord just comes directly out there with the answers. So we know that Krishna is the ultimate philosopher and the ultimate speaker of tattva, or truth. More answers will come their way, and it's a beautiful dialogue. Just once again, Krishna goes on to talk a little bit about, you know, destiny, what kind of body you might get, you know, what determines the new body, and so on, and answers are there. And just it's a lot of good stuff here. The purports are here by Srila Prabhupada to help us clarify any questions and queries we may have. So in the end, just to wrap it up, what can we conclude? What are the points here made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan? What are they? Anybody? Put up your hand if you know.
Brahman is indestructible, eternal. So
Brahman
the soul
is
cannot
eternal,
be
indestructible.
cannot be killed by weapons, cut into pieces.
Sure. That's right. And that the soul is, we are Brahman. We are that which cannot be destroyed. Anything else that's brought about?
The karma leads to the material manifestation.
Yes, that's right. Karma is connected to the development of the new body, putting the